Welcome to DeFi Fast and Furious. I'm Jane Thomason, and I'm going to try and take you through some of the basic concepts of DeFi today. I want to talk to you about what is decentralized finance? Why are people talking about it? It's the word that's on everyone's lips. So what is DeFi? DeFi is effectively the same functions as traditional financial services, but it is decentralized using blockchain. So DeFi can carry out any of the functions of issuance, trading, ownership that traditional financial services carry out, but it is decentralized, and that means that it doesn't use intermediaries. So DeFi is based on blockchain, and most DeFi at the moment is built on the Ethereum blockchain. And what is blockchain? Well, blockchain is basically a decentralized database. It provides a secure chronological record of transactions made on a ledger distributed across multiple computers, which are called nodes, on a network. And the number of nodes in the network may vary from thousands to fewer. And a private blockchain may have as many as 3 nodes, and a public blockchain, such as Bitcoin, may have millions. Now, what are the key features of blockchain that make it such an important technology? So first of all, it's transparent. It's a publicly auditable database that anyone can look at any time. It's secure. It holds cryptographically secured data. It's called immutable, which means that once a record of a transaction goes onto the chain, the database can't be changed. And it's a decentralized network with thousands of computers validating every record on the ledger. And each transaction is timestamped, so you can always see what happened and when it happened. There's obviously a lot more features of blockchain than that, but that's just basically getting you to the understanding so that you can start to think about DeFi. So what are the 2 key features of DeFi that make it possible to undertake financial transactions without intermediaries? So the first one is automation, and the second one is what's known as blockchain smart contracts. Now, these are not legal contracts. These are effectively lines of code that will self-execute once certain criteria have been met, therefore eliminating the need for middlemen. So let's just talk about smart contracts for a minute, because this is an incredibly important function of blockchain, and how therefore smart contracts enable smart money. So as I said, smart contracts are self-executing business automation applications that run on a blockchain. They execute according to predetermined conditions. The smart contract will execute on an if-then or conditional programming basis, and smart contracts are the basis for the transference of cryptocurrency and digital tokens. And a digital token can be a representation of a physical asset or utility. So we have a short video for you now of Toby Lewis, who's the CEO of Novum Insights, which is an analytics firm specializing in DeFi, just talking about how smart contracts work.
A lot of people are very uncomfortable with this idea as well. It's like, how safe is it? Will my account get drained or whatever? But I think we're all confident with the idea of the direct debit, right? This is a direct debit with a logic statement added in, right? So if X, then Y, right? And so Y will happen if you do X action, right? Or if A then B, or however you want to state it. And so if I'm going into central London, London's congestion charging tax will take £10 or equivalent from my wallet, right? That's the big, I'd say in some ways like the holy grail of that smart money. Where that's working at the moment, and the big thing where, because a lot of this stuff was like, and I remember being slightly troubled in 2017, where I'd go to all these Ethereum meetups and crypto sort of deep dives and go around, and like you'd have 200 programmers And like, I'd just be going to people, what's a working use case for a smart contract, right? And they'd all go back and they kind of scratch their heads for a bit. And then they go, the ICO, which is the initial coin offering. I just go, so I started to get a bit scared back then, and rightly so, because basically the first manifestation of this was people started building all these kind of token economies effectively, using the one of the, so what Ethereum has is a whole bunch of different different sort of coded tokens, and the most famous of those is the ERC20, which basically means tomorrow still any one of you can find a relatively competent programmer, or even just read a Medium blog post. And I'm not necessarily recommending this. I would say you should work with very strong blockchain programmers. But in theory, you could go out there tomorrow and use the ERC20 on Ethereum and build your own token ecosystem, label it, and go, here's a thing, and now it works. Unfortunately, what then happened was then a whole bunch of people went and go, oh, I want to build like the tokenized Airbnb, or I want to build X. But of course, they hadn't convinced anyone to do any of this. So most of these projects ended up more than 90% down in value, and there was a bit of scummy behavior around it. And so that slightly was the early experimental phase, and the way the Ethereum ecosystem has always worked is it's very much like sort of the kind of Professor Frankenstein's view of finance. It's kind of like, well, let's just see what happens, and then if something bad happens, then we'll deal with it later. That's kind of like the way the Ethereum ecosystem works completely, but in a wonderful way. But it's very anarchic and freewheeling, and always leads to like manias, panics, and troughs, right? But what's then happening is people are then building, and they have done in 2020, I think, really nailed certain use cases that are immensely exciting. And this is where DeFi comes in.
So one of the issues that people are reasonably concerned about with DeFi is regulation and consumer protection. So why is this an issue? So regulators protect consumers and investors. However, in DeFi, it's peer-to-peer. So you don't have any intermediaries to regulate. So what regulators are concerned about is how you stop consumers and investors getting hurt when activities are not controlled, moderated, intermediated, hosted, or validated by a single or centralized party other than a smart contract. DeFi relies on a decentralized governance mechanism, often known as a decentralized autonomous organization, but how that individual project governance works can be opaque, and you need to go and audit the code and go back to the original white paper, if there is one, to understand how all the token economics work. So it's not that clear and transparent. But as I said, because DeFi is open source and DeFi platforms rely on open source computer code, it is possible to pay security researchers to go and audit the code to see if there are any vulnerabilities. So unaudited projects are more risky than audited projects, but just because a project has been audited, it doesn't mean it's safe. There can always be unexpected events. But when the smart contract malfunctions or is hacked or otherwise has a problem, who do you call? There's no one to call. It's also a 24-hour market, 7 days a week. It never closes. So how do regulators think about activities that cross borders seamlessly and operate on a 24-hour, 7 days a week basis? So DeFi really is in the building stage now. Innovators are building a new financial system, but there remain questions around definitions, taxonomy, developer liability, legal status of code, application of AML and KYC, and jurisdictional issues because it operates across border. So how is governance assured, and what are the mechanisms for change? So what we have for you now is two experts in the space, Julian Bouteloup, who is a blockchain developer who is building DeFi programs and who is the CEO of State Capital, which is an algorithmic trading company which works in DeFi. And Loretta comes out of traditional finance, and she's one of the foremost regulatory experts in the world working with digital assets. And they're both going to talk from their own perspectives about the challenges of decentralized and unregulated space. So the first video is from Julian Bouteloup talking to the proposition, is DeFi more dangerous than traditional finance?
I don't think DeFi is more dangerous than traditional finance. Saying that is actually, it's not true, will actually be saying that you cannot find anyone in the world that never got wrecked by traditional finance. 2009, subprime crisis, boom, pension funds, all the economy worldwide got wrecked. Everyone got wrecked. So saying that DeFi is more dangerous than traditional finance, this is not true. This is actually dangerous to say. Traditional finance wrecked. Traditional finance is really dangerous. Traditional finance is not transparent. Traditional finance has nothing to do on ledger. We don't even know where are the US dollars worldwide, if the company are backed up by money or whatever. So what happened, for example, with GameStonk, people investing in a stock, and then they got shut down from the application level. They couldn't leave the position, and a lot of people got liquidated because they took a short on the stock. And then what happened is regulation shut down the application, wrecked, liquidated a lot of people. And a lot of people lost money. A lot of people every single day losing money in traditional finance. What I'm saying is that decentralized finance is more open, more transparent, but obviously because it goes at speed of light of open source, it might be not more dangerous in the sense that it's more dangerous than traditional finance, but it's actually accessible by the more people. So more people don't have knowledge to actually measure the risk. That's my point. But obviously, decentralized finance, you can access it from your phone. And if you want to build something very quick the next day, you're from nowhere. You're from like a very poor area of the world. You're in a like emerging economy, you can still participate. For example, in the NFT world, we have this game called Axie Infinity. We are bringing 150 people from Philippines that are making more money in a day than they can make in 1 month just by playing a game. So my point is decentralized finance is a technology that is inclusive, that can bring a lot of people inside. That's my point. And it's not as dangerous as traditional finance. That's not true.
And in the second video, we're going to hear from a regulatory expert for digital assets, Loretta Joseph, who's currently working with the Financial Conduct Commission of Mauritius.
Decentralized finance. So it's effectively doing everything in a peer-to-peer nature that we did, that banks do. The issue I see is, the people in DeFi now think what they do is all really new and exciting. They bond, they do arbitrage. You can, what else can you do? You can insure against risks. You can trade derivatives, but they're not new concepts. I mean, I was trading 3-year bond options with my hands on a piece of paper in 1991. And you talk about uncorrelated trades against equities and interest rates and futures markets and derivatives and option markets. The difference was when we did it way back in the early days of financial markets, we didn't have any technology. I mean, we had there was 400 of us on a trading floor. We used to trade with our hands. We used to have butterflies and all these great hand signals. We had one Bloomberg on the entire floor that used to publish interest rate moves around the world. That was it. We had telephones. So the thing that's been accelerated with DeFi is that all these, banking, arbitrating, all these functions you can do, we used to do anyway by hand. We didn't have the technology to make it instantaneous. So they're not new concepts. Everything that Julian's talking about and Toby's talking about, we did back 30 years ago. The difference is that the technology has really accelerated that. My issue is when you're doing peer-to-peer, there, and everybody's arbitraging, and you're borrowing, you're selling, you're getting governance tokens. That's no different to putting in advisors on in the ICO boom of 2017, the governance tokens and swapping tokens around. I think there's a lot of danger in it. I mean, I've always said, even with cryptocurrency, regulators, nobody likes us, but the fact of the matter, what regulators do, we protect consumers and investors. The issue with this is that you don't have any intermediates to regulate, because usually we have banks or people performing asset management roles. Prudential regulators do it. We don't have that anymore, so it's totally peer-to-peer. My question is, how is that going to be regulated in the future? And people are going to get scammed. I mean, I've already looked at a lot of these projects across DeFi. The business is sending a governance token and effectively just getting tokens because the way that Uniswap works, they're scams. A lot of it is really scammy. And when people start to get absolutely whacked, the first thing they do is complain to the regulator. The regulators are not going to be understanding this, because you're talking about Sushi Swap and the Yam project and all these references to food, good God. So it's like the Pokemon, I guess, of the banking world. It's very immature, on the upside. Okay, I get the technology, but the other thing is we also understand, and I've traded every asset class that has ever existed. That's what I've done for years. And no asset class goes one way forever. This is the thing about it. Like, no asset goes up one way forever. And people say to me, oh, Bitcoin's going to the moon, and I'm going, but tell me why. They go, because it's going to 100,000. Okay, that's good, but why? And all these different things we're seeing in DeFi. I understand the technology and I get it, but I'm also mindful that we're getting people into this industry that don't understand risk. And you have to understand risk. It's always buyer beware. If you're going to trade anything, you need to understand the underlying risk, and also understand that there is no asset class that just keeps going up. Everything has dips and buys and sells, and people get hurt on moves up and they get hurt on moves down. But that doesn't matter if you're short selling or you're just holding or you're doing correlation trades. My point is that you need to understand your inherent risk, and don't do things just because everybody's doing it and all the developers doing it and everybody thinks that crypto is going to go one way forever, because that does not happen. For me as a regulator, I have to say to people, do whatever you want with the technology. I understand the tech and it's great, but buyer beware, because if things go pear-shaped, which they always do, we see corrections in markets all the time, and if you're not on one side of it, don't come back and say that you got scammed or you lost money. Only ever invest in this stuff as much money as you can afford to lose.
I hope you enjoyed that almost debate between Loretta and Julian about DeFi and what's going on in the space, and the comparison between traditional finance and decentralized finance. Now we're going to have a short video from Toby Lewis from Novum Insights talking about the origins of decentralized finance, because decentralized finance has actually been building for several years, but it has literally exploded into the space in 2020. So here's Toby Lewis talking about some of the background to the origins of DeFi.
Programmers being programmers went, well, this sucks. So they then went, well, we don't actually need any exchanges. We can just interact using a smart contract and tie up liquidity that way. So people began devising a way of doing automated market making using smart contracts. And so effectively, the basic mechanism, and this is how Uniswap, which is the best known automated market making platform, works, is it allows you to tie up your tokens. So effectively, I can hold a really interesting trade. So you're all a trading group, is you can wrap up wrapped Bitcoin and wrapped Ethereum together. So if you both, like most people interested in this space, tend to believe that Bitcoin and Ethereum are at least a good long-term hold, right? And so you effectively, in the last 7 months, we've got a DeFi calculator on our website, so you can program in. You can effectively wrap your Bitcoin, so it's kind of like a synthetic Bitcoin, which the Bitcoin maximalists hate, by the way. So it's very controversial, and we can move back to some of those issues as well. But you can wrap a Bitcoin, because they would say it's not really a Bitcoin, but you can wrap a Bitcoin and then you can wrap Ethereum and put them into a smart contract where effectively you are earning part of a pool fee for providing your Bitcoin and Ethereum into that whole thing, right? So, or it's slightly different because you're holding you're basically porting it into a smart contract, but basically it is all of it is like that. And so what you're doing is you're effectively becoming a market maker. So you're becoming Goldman Sachs or Citadel or one of these kind of people, right? So so what's really exciting is this is the first time that retail has been able to access the fees you receive for making a market effectively.
So I hope you enjoyed Toby's trip down memory lane. Now let's just talk a little bit about what this market is. So I said to you before, DeFi has surged, and indeed it has surged. In January 2020, the value locked in DeFi contracts was around 600 million. That surged 40 times to 83 billion in December 2020, and then rose again to 106 billion in April 2021. And the graph on the screen at the moment shows the growth of the DeFi market over recent months. And you can see that it's shot up. In the second slide, we show the market capitalization of the top 10 DeFi coins as of March 2021. And what you can see, of course, is that Uniswap is the strongest and most popular at the moment, but many people are experimenting with DeFi. So let's just try and summarize now, what are the pros and cons of DeFi? So the pros of DeFi are that it can offer greater returns than traditional investments, and a DeFi investment plan can be flexible and growth-oriented and offer you efficient asset diversification. Your investments are completely automated with smart contracts and zero human intervention. And so automation means quicker transactions and lower fees due to the absence of middlemen. DeFi solutions are highly interoperable and can potentially be integrated. And DeFi offers greater transparency as all the data is stored immutably using blockchain technology, which can be viewed by participants anytime and anywhere. But there are, of course, some disadvantages. As I said, DeFi is a new and unregulated sector. Investors can lose money because activities are not regulated, moderated, intermediated, hosted, or validated by a central authority. If the smart contract malfunctions or is hacked or otherwise has a problem, there is no recourse. The individual project governance of each DeFi project can be opaque, and the DeFi platforms rely on open source computer code, so it can be audited, and some pay security researchers to audit the code for vulnerabilities. But just because a project has been audited, it doesn't mean that it's safe. What's known as gas, which are effectively transaction costs in yield farming, can be huge. So the amount of money you need to invest in DeFi projects is actually quite substantial. And then finally, as I said, DeFi projects and services are available globally on a 24-hour, 7 days a week basis. It never closes, so it's hard to take meaningful due diligence. Yet, this is a very, very interesting new market. So people need to go places to get information. So some of the places that you can go to get information are Masari, which is a crypto market with professional grade data tools and research, Dune Analytics, which provides Ethereum analytics, Crypto Compare, which provides definitive real-time digital asset data, NYC Tail, which is a business solutions intelligence to monitor DApps and their performance. There's DeFi Score, which is a community contributed comparable value for measuring platform risk. And Novum Insights, which provides actionable analysis on all the major DeFi trends and has launched a series of products targeting the decentralized financial sector, such as momentum pairs. So you can actually use that to help you with your investment decisions. So that's an introduction to DeFi. It's fast, it's furious. People are experimenting with it at a great rate. Some people are making enormous amounts of money out of it, and others are taking big risks and losing. So without doubt, DeFi has created millions for some, and the recent explosion of interest in non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, has only added rocket fuel to the fire. Even the National Basketball Association in America has jumped on the bandwagon. But as I said, DeFi presents a dilemma for regulators. So please feel free to get in touch with me, read the article that I wrote on DeFi Fast and Furious, and contact me if you have any further questions. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person, and I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I'm Dr. Jane Thomason. Thank you very much.